Hey everybody, it's Dan with Pain Free You. It's a beautiful crisp morning here. Sky is blue. It's freezing out. This time I remembered to wear my gloves, so hopefully I won't freeze myself like I did yesterday. Today's topic is, what is the purpose of the pain? Now many of you are going to jump in and go, yeah, the pain is here to torture me and to make my life miserable and make sure I'm never happy, right? And so some people believe that's the purpose of the pain. Some people believe it's because I deserve it, and therefore this is what I get out of life. This is what I deserve, because I'm a lousy person. But at the end of the day, the purpose of the pain is to protect us. And I know that sounds really crazy, and I know many folks will know where that's coming from. I mean, basically, if you've ever read any books by Dr. Sarno, he's the doctor that kind of founded this mind-body connection. He connected unresolved emotions to our pains. And he determined that the brain is here to protect us from things that it believes are dangerous. And if it believes that these unresolved emotions, these anger and rage primarily, but all sorts of emotions that the brain has learned, or who we've been taught, are unacceptable, overwhelming, scary, and even perceived as dangerous. Sarno theorized that as these repressed emotions that we've been locking up in the basement of our subconscious for years or decades threaten to burst into consciousness, the brain will create pain or other symptoms. Could be weakness, numbness, burning, tingling, stabbing, throbbing, muscle spasms, headaches, reflux, heartburn, digestive problems. But the brain will create these symptoms or pains in an attempt to make sure we don't allow those overwhelming, scary, dangerous emotions to surface. And I also add into that list of emotions those that don't fit with your self-image, right? If you're a happy person, anger doesn't fit, so you lock it up. And so the brain will protect you at any cost from having to experience these emotions that don't fit with your self-image or are too overwhelming, scary, or dangerous. And look, you've never met a 1-year-old who thought that it was unacceptable to cry, or that it's unacceptable to get angry when they've got a wet diaper. We were taught that certain emotions are not acceptable. We were taught these things, and in some cases it was beat into us, right? Because if we misbehaved and we got angry at our brother or sister, we got a beating, right? So that's where we learned this stuff. And as we were growing up, we formed these beliefs about emotions. So one of the core things that I teach is that emotions are safe, period. End of story. If you don't get that right, most everything else that Sarno taught, that the other experts have taught, Schubner, Schechter, Clark, Nicole Sachs, Steve Ozanish, now myself, if you don't get it right that emotions are actually safe and meant to be felt, how well do you think you're going to do with the emotional discovery stuff that I talk about, and that Sarno says think psychologically? Well, if you think that these emotions are dangerous, how are you going to do that? Journal speak. How are you going to do journaling out and getting out all of this angry, negative poison that's inside of us if you believe that emotions are dangerous? Now look, just by pushing through the process of feeling these emotions, or journaling about them, or verbally journaling about them, or just sitting with these emotions, we learn that in fact they're not dangerous. That's part of the purpose of this. But I think it's extremely helpful to reframe that emotions are safe. Why? Because it kind of greases the skids a little bit and makes the emotional discovery process flow a little bit better. So you don't have to just push through it and gnash your teeth through it quite as much, because you've already pre-decided up front that these emotions are safe and allowed, and they make you a normal human being. So back to the purpose of the pain. The pain is there to distract us from these emotions, which the brain says you can't handle, right? I mean, this is stuff I've talked about before. This is nothing new here. So my suggestion is don't get lost in the pain. It is so easy to get lost in the pain. You wake up and you go, oh, where's the pain? Oh, there it is. Oh no, today's going to be awful, awful, awful. All right, your only job is to feel your emotions and get your mind out of the pain, right? Two things. Feel your emotions, get your mindset right, which basically means stop focusing on the pain all day long. Sorry, the light here is a little bit funky. All right, that might be a little bit better. But yeah, our job is not to focus on the pain all day long, because that brain science keeps it wired and connected. So the process is not overly complicated. Number one, emotions are safe. Number two, feel them. Number three, get your mind out of the pain and into your life. I know. How am I supposed to live my life when I hurt so bad? I get it. Been there. 13 years there. And that's why it took me 13 years to get out of it, because I stayed stuck in the pain, focused on the pain, desperately trying to get rid of the pain. I made getting rid of my pain a full-time job for over a decade, and it never helped me. Right? So when we keep in mind the purpose of the pain is to keep us away from these emotions, well, simply put, if we want to get rid of the pain, focus on the emotions, right? Simple logic here. And if we understand brain science, how the brain connects the neurons on the things that we focus on the most and we put most attention on, then we realize that the way to get those connections, those neural pathways to disconnect, is through an attitude of complete indifference. Really don't care. Don't give a crap about the symptoms or the pain. And the brain will eventually learn that that's not important anymore, and will eventually let go. And we do that through our attitude and our mindset and our focus and where we place our attention. That's what I talk about the mindset, the belief that, hey, I can get rid of this pain. This is possible. I am able to develop an attitude of indifference, because frankly, if you're laying on the floor with your pain screaming at you and you can barely move, you got two choices. You can either freak the heck out, or you can lay there and kind of chuckle and go, here we go again. I survived this 360 days before. I'll survive this one too. It's okay. Kind of laugh at how ridiculous the brain's strategy of distraction is, that it's willing to cause us that much pain and suffering just to protect us from these emotions. And I'm not suggesting that our emotional worlds are not overwhelming. They very much can be. But again, if you want to get rid of the pain, you kind of have to step into the emotional world and feel the heck out of these emotions and prove to your brain, I can handle them. So it realizes the distraction isn't necessary. So when you're lost in your pain or your other symptoms, don't forget the purpose of it. The purpose of it is distraction. The purpose of it is to keep you away from those emotions. And if all your emotions are about the pain, you're still lost in the pain and you're missing the point. What else is going on? What else might require your attention emotionally? What emotions are you choosing to avoid by staying stuck in the pain or the symptoms? You know? And I did have a conversation with somebody the other day, and when their pain started, there was a bunch of stuff going on. Some stressors, some really emotional stuff that really shifted who they were in the world. It's a gentleman who recently retired and had a confrontation at work. You know who you are. So this is my tribute to you. But what we talked about, me and this gentleman, is that the pain started at that point. And he's done a lot of journaling and exploration. And it is very possible, although maybe not, very possible he's already addressed and felt those emotions from that triggering time in his life But now, because the pain is so severe and so challenging, the pain has kind of become its own animal, and it takes on a life of its own, and it creates all of these negative emotions and fears and thoughts and everything else. So do the emotional discovery process. Do that a lot. Uncover what you can. Teach your brain that these emotions are safe by doing that and actually feeling them. Don't get lost in the, sorry about the lighting keeps changing. Don't get lost in the ruminating on the stories, but just feel the emotions, right? If you need help on that, I've done a lot of videos on feeling versus rumination, or how to feel your emotions to end your pain. Look up those things. Go to YouTube and click on the magnifying glass on my channel, Pain For You channel, then click on the magnifying glass and search for these topics. You'll find a lot of different videos on them. But feel your emotions. Don't get lost in the story. And people do definitely get hung up between, well, if I'm feeling the emotions, then how am I going to get out of that for the rest of the day? Well, that's the difference between feeling and ruminating. Story mode. How am I supposed to feel the emotions if I don't recall the story? Look, there's no rules as it relates to the 20, 30 minutes that you're doing the emotional discovery. If you need the story to do that, great. It's what you do the rest of the day that matters. Don't ruminate on the pain. Don't ruminate on the grudge that you're holding against your brother or sister, because all you're doing is reactivating those emotions. I don't know. Just try to keep in mind when you're lost in the pain, keep in mind the purpose of the pain, and it is a distraction. And as long as you're focused on the pain, you are utterly, completely distracted. That's not going to help you get rid of it because of brain science. What we focus on the most stays wired in the brain. And so, really important for you to shift your focus away from the pain. Where do you shift it? To your emotional world. Where do you shift it? Gratitude. Where do you shift it? To actually things that you want to do and learn and grow. Lady I was talking to yesterday reminded me that the brain only has so much real estate, and if you want to evict the pain, you replace it with a new tenant. So in her case, she said, one of the things she started doing was crocheting again and started learning a language, Spanish, because there's only so many things that can stay connected in the brain at once. That's why, what's that phrase? Jack of all trades, master of none. We can only get really good at one thing. Well, right now, unfortunately, most of us are really, really good at pain, and there's not much room for anything else. And so if you want to get the pain out, you got to shift your focus away to it and start getting good at or engaging with other things that are more important and more enjoyable in your life. And basically that's saying, pain, you're going to get evicted, and we're going to move in these other more useful tenants into our brain space and into our mental focus or mental space. We only have so much attention we can place throughout the day, and if we're placing it all on pain, there's no room for anything else. So if you really want to make room for other things, start shifting to those other things. You don't have to evict the pain, but just stop making it a priority, and it will eventually get bored because you're not paying attention to it, and it will leave on its own. So, purpose of the pain. Hopefully this made sense. Yeah, that's pretty much all I've got for this one. Love you guys and gals. If you like this video, share it, and comment below. Please let me know if I was on target with this, or if you have other thoughts or opinions regarding the purpose of the pain. And I guess we'll talk to you guys in the next video. And I will say, even with gloves, my fingers are freezing. It's probably in the 20s out here. So we'll talk to you guys in the next video. We'll see you.